NAIC. You can see the Pokemon on the field. It's going to be the Urshifu and the Miraidon for Behzad, whereas it's Incineroar and that Calyrex Shadow Rider out there for Gabriel Agati.
Calyrex hits the field immediately, has the Spooky Plate to get a little bit stronger as well, but is at a speed disadvantage compared to Miraidon, and if it went out on the offense, it'd have to worry about a Sucker Punch coming in as well. So definitely a little bit back-footed here. Incineroar, on the other hand, can offer a Fake Out against either of these Pokemon, but has to watch out with the offense coming its way. A close combat or a big Electro Drift could be a problem, or even just a Volt Switch to get off the field and get some chip damage in on that Incineroar.
Incineroar certainly has a choice to make. Do you want to try and stop the Urshifu from dealing big damage into your opposing Calyrex? It has opted for the Terrestrialization, so it's not going to be as weak to Dark-type moves, but now it's going to be super-duper weak to any Fighting-type moves that come its way. Incineroar has decided to target down into that Miraidon, stop it going for an attack on this turn, as Astral Barrage will come through and connect on both of Behzad's Pokemon. Significant damage down into the Miraidon, but Urshifu able to take this and retaliate with a Wicked Blow. Thanks to the Terrestrialization, though, Calyrex able to hang on into turn 2.
Well, Gabriel gets a lot of damage down. Gets an Astral Barrage that does more than 50% of Miraidon and a chunk into Urshifu, but it pays a pretty high cost for it. Both using the Terrestrialization, using a bunch of Calyrex's health, but also in the positioning. Calyrex now very vulnerable here. Should move after Miraidon on the other side, means that it could just go down if it doesn't protect. Urshifu also threatening a Sucker Punch or an attack in that slot if Calyrex does protect. So really a difficult position for the Calyrex to be in, maybe forces a switch out of Gabriel, can try to give some pace advantage to Behzad. Meanwhile, Incineroar doesn't take any damage out of that position, but still has the same vulnerabilities that we talked about last turn. If Gabriel gets too focused on saving the Calyrex here, the Incineroar is very vulnerable.
And I think the Urshifu is really sitting in a position where it doesn't have to worry too much about taking any damage here. So a great adaptation here by Gabriel to get that Calyrex out of the field, bringing the Ogerpon in instead. But Urshifu actually going to switch out. I think Behzad may be thinking that the Calyrex is going to leave the field and needs to keep that Urshifu to apply pressure later on, as the Calyrex is able to join. So Behzad locking in both Restricteds onto the field in this moment of play. This could be a nice turn of events where you can try and deal with something like the opposing Ogerpon with a Glacial Lance. You've got that Never Melt Ice, but at the same time, you don't have a huge utility against it. And Gabriel is going to switch things up completely. Going to be bringing Koraidon onto the field. So a double switch here for Gabriel. Volt Switch will come through into this Ogerpon, does do a significant amount of damage. It is, you know, a water and grass type, so it's not going to be able to fully resist those attacks. And this again allows Behzad to position. And Len, one thing I've really taken away from this turn is a lot has changed. We have 4 completely different Pokemon on the field to what we had in turn 1.
A complete shift up. Incineroar comes out, gets the Intimidate out onto Ogerpon. Calyrex looks for the opportunity to come on the field. We talked before the match that Trick Room could be pretty impactful. This is a much easier couple of Pokemon to get Trick Room up against than the Calyrex and the Incineroar were a moment ago. Ogerpon also takes a huge amount of damage for that. So the cost of trying to save the Calyrex, which was low and vulnerable to Volt Switch, is that Ogerpon pays most of its health.
Ogerpon switching out here again, you know, as you said, it was already in a very vulnerable position, and Gabriel wants to try and mitigate that by bringing in the Incineroar. The Intimidate, I think, works really nicely here. You can intimidate 2 physical attackers. You know, there's no clear amulet in sight, so that is going to be able to stay around on the field, as we are going to see the Terrestrialization come through on Behzad's side now. It's going to be onto that Calyrex Ice Rider. This is a Fairy Terrestrialization.
The Fairy Terrestrialization will help make sure that there's no Flare Blitz weakness here, take less damage, but it's just a Collision Course coming out.
Yes, Collision Course is going to connect down into the opposing Incineroar. That's going to do a huge amount of damage and completely remove it from the field with a one-hit KO, meaning that Behzad is down 1 Pokemon at this point in time. Calyrex can retaliate with this Glacial Lance. It will find its mark down onto the Koraidon, but not going to be putting it into the KO range here.
Significant damage coming out, but no Trick Room opted for. Behzad deciding to stick with the speeds as they are, which can be helpful for keeping this Urshifu moving faster than Incineroar on the other side, but means that Koraidon is still the Pokemon moving the fastest. We saw how much damage it can put out. Picking up that KO against Incineroar last turn, Urshifu just is vulnerable here.
Yes, and you can see Behzad really considering what to do with this Calyrex. It's in a position where you don't want to have it take any unnecessary damage. Urshifu on the field, though, again, this is a Pokemon that can apply decent damage into Incineroar with something like a close combat, but you really want it to try and deal with that opposing Calyrex that you know is in the back of Gabriel.
Right, there's a decision to be made here about what to protect, and you can see Behzad really thinking it through, because if Urshifu this protect gets called, then a lot of damage could be coming into Calyrex right now.
Yep, just a defensive play coming through on this Calyrex, not wanting to take any damage. Possibly Behzad scouting out what Gabriel wants to do in this turn with the Incineroar on the field. The fake out has gone down into that Incineroar, so has gone down into the Urshifu, so that has now been burnt in this turn. And Koraidon was just trying to follow up with a Flare Blitz into the counterpart of the Calyrex here, but no damage dealt out on the field. No
damage with the double protect, but now the protects are burnt. You would have to double protect in order to get them again. Means that for Gabriel, there's much easier thought process here. You don't have to worry about what Pokemon might protect. You could just target the one that you really want KO'd, or you have to start thinking about the switch to what's in the back. But the Miraidon likely very vulnerable to no switch, just damage, just the collision course into Urshifu and the KO.
Yep, Koraidon taking advantage that it is the most fast and furious on the field right now, and it can go for that big damage into the Urshifu and remove it from play thanks to the Focus Sash having been broken earlier. Calyrex can return with this Glacial Lance. That will get the knockout on Koraidon and give it a Chilling Day boost, but Incineroar still in a prime position. Incineroar can also capitalize on the fact that the sun is in the sky and make something like a Flare Blitz do a decent amount of damage, but you can also try and pivot off, go for that U-turn so you can intimidate and reduce that Chilling Day boost that it just got later on.
Reset fake out this way as well. Koraidon gets a lot of work done, ends up going down to that Glacial Lance, but picks up 2 KOs onto both Dark Pokemon. With both Dark Pokemon missing, that makes the Calyrex that shows back up immediately much more impactful. The problem for the Calyrex is still the speeds, though. With 2 KOs, that means the Miraidon is coming back out onto the field right now, but is holding the Choice Scarf. That fake out reset, though, means you can just bring Incineroar back out, get fake out position, then you can throw a fake out at the Miraidon and Astral Barrage at these 2 Pokemon, and there's no way to save Miraidon.
That's true, because Miraidon holding that Choice Scarf doesn't have the capability to protect, so it leaves it very vulnerable in the face of this fake out. And, you know, Gabriel does still also have that Ogerpon in the back, so it is a 3v2 situation we've got on the field right now.
Then you have to decide if you can get that KO, the Astral Barrage into Calyrex, how impactful is a Glacial Lance or a Trick Room coming back the other way? You know that Calyrex would go down to it, that would give up another Chilling Day boost, but Incineroar probably doesn't take too much damage, and at that point Calyrex is quite low, moving slower than both Incineroar and Ogerpon should be. A pretty tidy way to wrap this up for Gabriel.
Well, the fake out does go down into the Miraidon. I think that's a very wise choice from Gabriel's side, just slowing down that Pokemon as Calyrex can follow up with this Astral Barrage. It will find its mark on both of Behzad's Pokemon, will be able to get the knockout onto the Miraidon, leaving Calyrex in a position where it has the capability to respond, but there's just so much pressure on Gabriel's side here. Grimnay also being given a boost onto that Calyrex, but I'm not sure it's going to be able to hang around for too long as Glacial Lance comes through and will remove it from the field, but Incineroar, being that fire type, is able to take this so beautifully.
Now it's down to 2v1. It's down to Calyrex to stand up against Ogerpon and Incineroar. That Chilling Day will help it, but no leftovers to help. That health is all Calyrex has, and so it's just the task to take it down. And the sun expiring here, even though Gabriel's the one who set the sun, is helpful for Gabriel. It means the Ivy Cudgel is back to full strength. So even though the next Glacial Lance is going to take out Ogerpon, it won't take on Incineroar. Is there enough damage to close it out? Let's see the first Ivy Cudgel.
Yep, Ivy Cudgel connects, does a significant amount of damage into that Calyrex that can go for the Leech Seed. So it is that more defensive variant where it has the capabilities of taking a lot of damage, but it really needs a little bit more in the tank here as Flare Blitz is able to get the knockout with a cheeky critical hit for style points, meaning that Gabriel Agati is going to be able to take game 1 in this set.
A little bit of key speed information right there at the end. I'm not sure if we'd seen it before, but the Calyrex moves before the Incineroar gets the Leech Seed off. Could be important to note going into the next game. Maybe disrupts Trick Room game plans even more. Maybe a bad sign if you're Behzad and already down a game and learning that information. Meanwhile, Gabriel, seems like you paid a really high cost for that first Astral Barrage at the beginning, but the repositions that happened afterwards just meant that Koraidon had such a massive impact on this game. It started with this first collision course into Incineroar, the clean one-hit KO to take such an important Pokemon out of the game, and then the vulnerability of the Calyrex over the next turn meant that Protect was used with both Pokemon, and then Urshifu was just left hanging, left to go down to this second collision course and limit Behzad to just the 2 Pokemon, just the Miraidon that could not protect itself, could not switch, and had to go down.
But I think one of the reasons why Koraidon was set up for so much success was the fact that Gabriel was able to have this move where so many Pokemon changed. I think all 4 Pokemon changed in one particular turn, and suddenly Koraidon was the fastest thing on the field, and that just enabled it to start steamrolling through Behzad's Pokemon, getting those collision courses down, getting a lot of damage, getting KOs onto the field, whereas at the beginning with the Choice Scarf Miraidon, it made things a little bit more difficult for Gabriel.
Right, the Choice Scarf Miraidon is a big threat, and it's a delicate game to do what Gabriel did, to accept that you're going to trade some damage onto that Miraidon for damage onto the Calyrex and hope that you can follow through with Fake Out at the right moment to be able to capitalize on the damage that you got down early. Behzad just may have to find the difference in the positioning to not let that Fake Out go down. If it was the Incineroar on the other side going down quickly instead of the Incineroar on Behzad's side, that makes the whole difference in that. But then if you could also find other speed advantage options, like Trick Room, or like having the Iron Treads down on the field, then maybe you're not even less vulnerable to the Calyrex.
I mean, we've seen Iron Treads do a lot of damage in the past, but that Trick Room, as you've mentioned, could be a way for Behzad to swing momentum back into his favor. We're going to see an adaptation on Gabriel Agati's side, however. It's going to be that beautiful Flutter Mane paired up with the Koraidon, and such beautiful synergy amongst these Pokemon. When the sun is in the sky, photosynthesis is allowed to shine.
Well, one team has gone full speed. Flutter Mane with its speed boost here, the fastest Pokemon in this match, and has Icy Wind to slow down the other side further. Koraidon also moving before either of Behzad's Pokemon. Meanwhile, Behzad's got the slow ones out there. It's Incineroar and Calyrex, a classic from Reg G. The threat of Fake Out and Trick Room is around, but it's something you touch on before the match. It's not so easy to Fake Out and Trick Room when there's a Ghost with Taunt on the other side. That Taunt could just be coming out, so then do you just consider damage? Glacial Lance could be very good here, but it could just be a Terastallization coming out from Koraidon on the other side. You at least get it into Flutter Mane, but then you're starting to think, oh, those trades, is that enough in that position? Because a taunted Calyrex maybe then is just quite vulnerable. You have to worry about Flare Blitz coming out, especially if the Fire Terastallization has been used.
Well, it looks like Flutter Mane's going to leave the field as quickly as it's joined, not going to be able to threaten with the taunts or any potential Icy Winds here. Instead, Incineroar joining the fray from Gabriel's side, maybe hoping that Behzad isn't going to be tempted to go for that Trick Room button, considering Flutter Mane was on the field. Now you can take and Intimidate for your troubles and lower the offensive pressure that these two physical attackers were capable of dealing. Koraidon is going to go for the Terastallization. We've seen this time and time again, enabling it to go for that fire typing. As you were just saying, the sun is in the sky. You can now give extra damage to your fire type moves with this fire Terastallization, meaning the Flare Blitzes are going to be formidable. But Behzad also going to activate that Terastallization button onto the Calyrex Ice Rider. This now is going to be that Fairy type once again.
Fairy type helps to stand up to Flare Blitz, but it doesn't resist the Flare Blitz. It's still a lot of damage if that's what happens, but it's not what's happening. Fake Out's going to be able to stop that for this turn at least.
Yep, slow and steady can sometimes win the race, and maybe just slowing down this Koraidon is a strategy that Behzad needs in this moment. As you can see, however, the Glacial Lancers are incredibly underwhelming into both of these Fire-type Pokemon.
Right, with the training to be very bulky, to be able to exploit Leech Seed, a little bit less on the offense. And so Incineroar and Koraidon both resisting Glacial Lance, and then the Intimidate coming down as well means that Glacial Lance really isn't that impactful. The Incineroar now has got Fake Out on the side for Gabriel, not for Behzad. So we have the threat of Fake Out going to force a switch here. Incineroar just out to the back, doesn't want to take a collision course, and so instead it's Miraidon coming out into the field.
Yes, because we know the Calyrex has the capability to go for a Protect, doesn't have to play that Fake Out game if it wants to, but no Protects coming through straight away. Koraidon going straight on the offensive with the collision course will be able to find its mark onto that Miraidon, do a significant amount of damage for it switching into the field as Calyrex retaliates once again with the Glacial Lance, but we know this is only going to be a tiny little bit of chip onto both of these Pokemon. Incineroar adding a little bit more insult to injury to that Miraidon, going for the U-turn, putting it into the red zone and allowing Gabriel to switch up the ball position to try and gain a favor.
Right, and if it's Flutter Mane coming in,
here it is.
There's no speed advantage for that Choice Scarf Miraidon. You often run it to expect it to be the fastest thing moving, to be going faster than that Koraidon on the other side, but Flutter Mane just undoes that. It can target down the Miraidon before it could possibly move. It's now low enough health in Miraidon that it can just finish off the Miraidon, or it could Icy Wind to slow it down. Even the Icy Wind might pick up the KO, though. Meanwhile, the Calyrex is staying on the field, throwing out Glacial Lances where they're not doing much damage. Flutter Mane is a better target for it, but the Focus Sash means that you're not threatening a KO, and so it's easy for Gabriel to continue to press that advantage. It can be something like a Moonblast into the Miraidon slot and a big Flare Blitz coming into the Calyrex slot, and like, are you getting enough back if you're just throwing out these Glacial Lances?
I think the speed controls you were mentioning is just so critical here. The fact that this Flutter Mane is really fast does make it very difficult for Behzad to have to adapt here, constantly on the back foot. You're going to see the Moonblast come through. That is going to be able to get the knockout straight away onto that Miraidon. Unfortunately for Behzad, we're not going to see the Miraidon take any role in this particular match here. Koraidon celebrating that fact, and unfortunately for it, it's not going to be able to do a collision course either, thanks to the defensive play on Behzad's side.
Maybe that collision course targeted also into Miraidon, trying to see if anything would switch and to take that Moonblast. But Behzad says no, nothing can come in and take that Moonblast. Miraidon is going to have to go down. So like you say, it has no impact on this game. Meanwhile, Incineroar just comes back out onto the field. It can fake out for a turn, keep itself safe for a turn, but then ultimately is going to be just as threatened by Collision Course as it was a few turns ago when it fled.
Well, the fake out has to go down into the Koraidon. You cannot go for that fake out into the Ghost-type Flutter Mane that can now utilize that taunt, saying, if you're thinking of doing a Trick Room Calyrex, just don't. That's not going to happen on my watch. Koraidon unable to move as Calyrex didn't fall for the taunt, goes for the Glacial Lance. This is going to be able to do a significant amount to the opposing Flutter Mane, but critically breaking that Focus Sash, making it more vulnerable.
Yeah, Flutter Mane has become vulnerable, but I think it's done its job. It's outsped and KO'd Miraidon. It's landed a taunt into Calyrex. What more does it need to do in this match? Meanwhile, Koraidon is continuing to put out huge damage. Incineroar has no fake out this turn. It's just vulnerable to Collision Course coming in. No Terrestrialization to save it. Do you have a Pokemon in the back that you want to come in and take it more? Maybe, but you're just still giving up pieces, still giving up so much damage.
Flutter Mane's in a prime position. As you said, it can go down now. It would be very, advantageous for Gabriel to try and bring in a Pokemon from the back, but you can always still utilize it to try and get some damage on the board, and Moonblast just chipping away at something like the Incineroar could be in play. But honestly, Gabriel is in the driving seat. This Koraidon once again in a prime position to just get some big Collision Course damage off. You could try and target that down into the Incineroar and remove it from the fray. It's running the Assault Vest, but that only protects it against special attackers. The Incineroar can intimidate, again, both the physical attackers on Behzad's side. This is really detrimental to the offensive pressure that Calyrex wishes it could deal out. As Koraidon takes the styles, it has exactly found its mark on that Incineroar. That's another solid one-hit KO of damage down into it.
Koraidon is having that same impact in this game that it did in the last one, just picking up KOs, and meanwhile Calyrex is having no impact. Another even weaker Glacial Lance into these two Pokemon. Can't do anything but click Glacial Lance because of the taunt. Now can't even switch. There's no Pokemon in the back to go to, just going to have to keep doing it into these two fire types, which means it's all down to Urshifu. Now, the bright side is, the last time when we were in this position and Urshifu just got KO'd, the Koraidon on the other side was healthy enough to not be at risk to Sucker Punch. No longer the case. It could go down to a Sucker Punch. Now, still an extremely uphill battle. You have Incineroar threatening. Fake out this turn is going to make you protect. There's still so many switches available for Gabriel to burn through these Pokemon, but at least there's some glimmer there of still being able to get a KO on this Koraidon before it lands even more damage.
Sucker Punch definitely causes some celebration problems for that Koraidon in this match, just being able to have that priority and, as you say, capitalize on the low HP that it's got. But Gabriel, seeing that opportunity, switches out, so if Sucker Punch comes through into that mark, it will indeed fail. You can bring the Calyrex into the fray now, knowing that Koraidon's safe in the back, but Urshifu not even going to try and Sucker Punch its way through this team right now, instead just going straight up for the protect. Because Incineroar has that potential fake out, it does not want to lose its Focus Sash for nothing in this turn. Calyrex, of course, free to just go for another Glacial Lance. We know it's going to do barely any damage to the Incineroar, but Calyrex, it could chip away at a little bit as it shakes off that taunt it took earlier.
It can chip away, but at this point it is just chipping away. It's not even going to be a 2-hit KO on the Calyrex on the other side, who can freely go out for damage. Urshifu's still the really impactful Pokemon here. If too many resources get burnt, Urshifu can help come back. You have to be a little bit careful if you're Gabriel, but there's definitely trades to be made. You don't mind if you lose a Pokemon to Urshifu as long as you deal something big back to Urshifu in the meantime.
Yes, that's the thing. Gabriel has all 4 remaining Pokemon here, so as you mentioned, you can take one Pokemon down as long as you're maybe trying to trade against one of Behzad's side, because Gabriel has that 1-game advantage. He just needs to win this particular match to advance into the top 8 here at NAIC. Looks like he's taking every second he can to make sure he's calculating the move and not slipping up at this important stage. Incineroar leaves the field. You have 2 physical attackers in front of you. You want to be able to intimidate them later on, as the Flutter Mane is going to be able to rejoin on its minimal amount of HP, and it's a Pokemon that's certainly putting in a lot of work. Astral Barrage will come through from this Calyrex Shadow Rider. It will break the Focus Sash on Urshifu and do a significant chunk to both of the Pokemon, but Urshifu is not able to find its mark into the Ghost type of that Flutter Mane. Calyrex, however, is able to get that Trick Room off for the first time in this set.
The Trick Room was the glimmer here. Now with the speed advantage for Calyrex even weakened, it's enough to clearly KO the Flutter Mane. Urshifu can threaten down the Calyrex on the other side. Flutter Mane can't protect itself. Calyrex can't protect itself in front of an Urshifu attack. The Koraidon is quite low in the back and takes some Glacial Lenses, but definitely nothing from Urshifu. Incineroar, though, we've seen that it is going to move in this Trick Room even faster than Calyrex does. It'll be the first thing to move.
Yes.
But it's got an uphill battle. There's a lot of health left on that Calyrex. maybe even doing almost no damage, how are you going to eventually KO the Calyrex? It can also go for a Leech Seed in condition. If you can get through these two Pokemon using the Trick Room offense, you can deal with Incineroar just using Leech Seed.
That's a really good observation because the Calyrex Ice Rider on Behzad's side, it has taken a few Intimidates. We've seen how little damage those Glacial Lances are doing, but if it's able to, as you say, get those Leech Seeds up, then it can keep doing a little bit of chip with some Glacial Lance, but also with the Leech Seed and try and storm a way through this match, allowing the Urshifu to maybe try and get the damage on the board. Incineroar does what it does best, brings that Intimidate to the field, really trying to stop Behzad from being able to capitalize on this Trick Room in any way, shape or form. Calyrex, Shadow Rider on Gabriel's side just going straight for the Protect, does not want to have to take a potential Leech Seed, but Calyrex still just sticking with the offensive mode here and going for the Glacial Lance. Is going to be able to come through, connect a little bit of chip onto that Incineroar, but we see how little it is doing. It already falls to the Urshifu to try and find a spot, but the close combat was going down into that Calyrex slot.
Really interesting. Calyrex maybe could have slipped in an Astral Barrage there, protected in front of the Urshifu, but it's not the Wicked Blow coming in that would have just KO'd Calyrex. It was the close combat, trying to find the Miraidon coming in possibly and get that KO, or the Incineroar coming into that slot and get that KO. Meanwhile, Calyrex is still sticking around. The Flutter Mane had to switch, couldn't afford to take a Glacial Lance, but it means that Incineroar finds its way back on and now has Fake Out to try to pressure it down.
And you've got to keep an eye on those Glacial Lances as well. There's only 2 remaining on that Calyrex.
Only 2 remaining to try to pick up that KO. Leech Seed's going to help win a game, but it's going to be slow going to KO 4 Pokemon with Leech Seed. So you got to find some KOs in the meantime, but for this turn, just Urshifu protecting itself can't afford to take a Fake Out and an attack from Calyrex.
I mean, the Pokemon that has to find the KOs for Behzad is going to be that Urshifu. Unfortunately, it keeps having to protect in the face of these Fake Outs, and it keeps being faced down by Ghost Pokemon that it's unable to do any damage to. Leech Seed, however, on the Calyrex, able to avoid that potential Fake Out and is going to start trying to get a little bit of HP regeneration, but Calyrex Shadow Rider is going to have something to say about it, is able to go for this Astral Barrage, will connect down onto the opposing Calyrex here, do another chip damage to it, keep whittling away at it and forcing these Leech Seed to be less effective than the Calyrex had hoped it would be.
The Leech Seed's still valuable here, probably does more to Incineroar than the Glacial Lance would have, and undoes a little bit of that Astral Barrage damage. Wouldn't be that surprised to see Incineroar just leave the field again here, because Fake Out could be important down the stretch, as could a Glacial Lance resist, and you don't want to give any more health back to Calyrex. But now Calyrex is in that same difficult spot where if a Wicked Blow is coming through, it could just be a problem. Last time it was called with a close combat, that just meant the Protect worked. This time the switch actually happens. Miraidon comes in. What will Urshifu do?
Well, let's have a look. The sunlight is back in the sky as well, so this is going to help Miraidon and the Incineroar if it wants to go for that Flare Blitz, and that's exactly what it's done going into Urshifu before, even to see what Urshifu wants to go for, forcing Behzad to have only 1 Pokemon remaining on the field, and particularly with 2 formidable Fire-type Pokemon that can do some strong Fire-type damage, it's going to be one epic uphill climb for this Calyrex. It is finally able to get a KO onto that opposing Incineroar, but that Miraidon is in play, and you still have to deal with Flutter Mane and the Calyrex.
Trick Room is ending soon. The Protects should be able to get there, and I'm not sure that's a KO you wanted. Leech Seed was going to take it before the end of the turn anyway and give you back a little bit of
you could
health.
have got the HP.
Now Calyrex is just low and vulnerable to these big restricted Pokemon on the other side. Urshifu had its window, had its moment to possibly KO Calyrex, but before it actually got to swing, there was a Fake Out threatened, there was the Sun Out, there was the Flare Blitz, there was the KO, and it was the match.
Yeah, Behzad sees the writing on the wall, throws in the forfeit, and Gabriel Agati, that smile on his face, because he knows he has advanced into our top 8 here at NAIC. Huge congratulations to him, commiserations to Behzad as well. I really thoroughly enjoyed watching that set.
It was a really interesting set. Both games played quite differently, but the consistent part of it was Miraidon out on the offense. Both games featured a really crucial